Hello and welcome to another video. This is the making of Ganesh's wooden base part 2. As you can see, I've called in a little bit of help here from my son. He is currently trying to chip away at that horrendously hard piece of cherry we were using. He's using the mini chainsaw to kind of saw some sections to make it easier to remove a lot of the bulk wood. The plan here is to try and make it as easy and as clean as possible to minimise the amount of work we're going to have to do once we've removed a lot of the waste wood. So the plan is to make some thin sections using the chainsaw so that we can hopefully cut them off nice and straight and even, which will leave us with minimal planing and touching up. As you can see on this next clip, now that we've transitioned, one side's already been done, so we're not really measuring out and being really accurate with each slice, but they're roughly, I'd say, between 1 centimetre and 1.5 centimetres. Nothing like too accurate sort of going forward, because we're just going to chip it off anyways. It was actually quite fun to do. It took quite time consuming, took a while. I'm not sure if there's any easier methods for this. Obviously, we don't have a chop saw or bandsaw or anything like that, which would have been a lot quicker. So again, we just utilise the tools that we have. Okay, so here you can see that we are almost done. I say we, I am the cameraman, obviously. He's almost done here. I think we ended up with maybe 4 or 5 sort of small sections on each side going forwards, which wasn't too bad. We probably could have got the sections even smaller if we'd have had maybe a chop saw or a bandsaw or something like that would have made it a lot easier and made it easier to be like super accurate with the sizes. But I think considering the tools he was using, he did a very good job, because I was actually struggling with this piece of wood. It was the hardest piece of wood I have ever attempted to do anything with. And yeah, he did a cracking job. As you can see, all pretty even. I mean, the depth of the lines was really even. And considering it was just with a sort of a cheap mini chainsaw. So now you can see that we have come indoors. It started raining, unfortunately. And the idea, like I said, was to remove these little sections now as flush and as nicely as possible. So he started by chiseling them off. Unfortunately, the table wobbles and is very unsteady. It's one of those tables where the legs move. But again, and this wood is super hard. We've tried going with the grain, against the grain. He even took it to work and tried to use it on the works chop saw, which just, I don't know if you can see underneath the clamps there, that black sort of burn mark. That is from the chop saw at his work. That is how hard this wood actually was. The chop saw just burnt it. And made it very, very difficult to take off the excess waste. Again, you can see that it's continuing to crack quite a lot. He's working at it and trying not to, chop his leg off in the process. And actually, those smaller chunks are coming off quite well. The reason I left in that little blooper is just to show you that even when you are using sort of clamps and things, things can come loose, and it can be quite difficult to do what seemingly appears to be the most simplest of tasks. But he works away at it. He's trying to take off smaller pieces now. So rather than going for the big breaks, he's just kind of chipping away at it, trying to get off the smaller pieces, which again is still really difficult, especially with that wobbly table. So after getting a bit fed up with the chisel not really working as well as we thought, we decided to swap to the saw to try and hand saw it off. Very labour intensive this way. I'm not sure if it was quicker or slower. I would say it was approximately about the same kind of time, but you could take off larger chunks and kind of hopefully get a smoother end result. So that was a good thing, that you could take it off in larger chunks, without having to use quite as much force or pressure. Here he's changed to a different kind of saw. I believe it's a tenon saw. I think the other one was just a bit too big for the small area in which we were working because it was raining outside. As you can see here, he decided to go back to the larger saw and to tackle it sideways rather than going from top to bottom and taking off one section at a time. He decided to try it sideways and tackle all the sections at the same time. Again, I don't know if this was any quicker or any slower, but it was definitely easier with the larger saw, which is why he swapped back to the larger saw. And again, it worked really well. Unfortunately, this wood is just super dry, super hard, and increasingly cracking and splitting the more we work with it. And after taking some off with the saw and loosening a lot of the sections away from the main piece, he decided to go back to the chisels and to see if that would help to be able to just bash off some larger sections rather than keep trying to cut through this super hard wood. As you can see, it's working quite well. Unfortunately, again, the wood is still cracking and is still increasingly difficult to work with. So he gets fed up with the chisels and feels that that is taking more time than actually just sawing the sections off. So he goes back to the big saw and carries on sawing them all in one piece straight down rather than top to bottom. He's going for it, trying to take off as much waste material as possible in the quickest time possible. I mean, this wood is just beautiful. I don't know if any of you guys have worked with plum before, if you have any hints and tips about plum and possibly where we went wrong with trying to remove the waste wood and why it took us quite so long and why it was quite such a labour intensive process. So this is what it looked like afterwards, and it had a big crack in it. So after rummaging around in the shed, we found a nice piece of sapele and we started to work on that because it's just so much easier to work with, and it was already fairly square and planed without too much waste wood needing to be removed. As you can see, he measured it up with a set square, went back to the handsaw. The rain had stopped, thankfully, so we could get back outside, and he managed to cut off a nice level square. Once he'd finished sawing off the piece that we needed, it was time to plane the sawn edge to make it nice and smooth to match the other edges. We used a block plane for the end grain, and we also used another plane, I think it was a Stanley number 5, for the rest of the surface, just to make sure that it was nice and level. And we then went on and chamfered the edges. After measuring the size of Ganesh on the base, he thought it would be the easiest solution and the quickest solution would be to use his palm router to route out a recess that we could sit the ceramic and secure in place with some 2-part epoxy. It took a couple of passes, but we kept taking passes, remeasuring, making sure it was level, making sure it was stable, taking passes, re-leveling, and then tidying up with a chisel to make it look all nice and beautiful around the edges. Such great work there. I'm totally impressed and humbled at how good he did for me on this project, seeing as I was really struggling. Once that was done, we sanded it to 10,000 grit, oiled it with some Danish oil, and used a 2-part epoxy to secure Ganesh to his base. As you can see, there he is now with his little mouse on the side, and it's actually looking spectacular. Thanks ever so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed and want to see more content, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Thanks very much. Have a good day.